it feels like Gen AI is still too big, too heavy to really run in a manufacturing environment. It's still like a cloud data center, centralized kind of conversation, but it's probably going to get really small, very, very fast and very specialized and, get really atomic so that we can run it anywhere, everywhere. I've been struggling to come up with why would we need Gen AI at the edge? What would we do with Gen AI in a factory, in a retail environment, on your phone, other than voice to text kind of stuff, getting better at that, natural language kind of queries, but that's not, I'm looking for defects on my part. I don't want it to make stuff up. I don't care what kind of wine I should have with dinner. I want to know if my part is good. Do you see Gen AI coming into factories, and what do you see it doing?
I absolutely see it coming to factories. I mean, Gen AI is moving at breakneck speeds. We're all seeing this right now, with the introduction of OpenAI, Bard. The fact of the matter is that we've quickly gone from something that was just an idea and it seemed almost as if it wasn't achievable to models that everybody can use every day as if they're an expert of something that they've never touched before. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. At the end of the day, these LLMs or large learning models, they're best put right now in the cloud, large data centers actually processing this. But this is quickly going to move directly to the edge. And that means that this technology is going to be utilized on the factory floor. And the use cases for me are extremely obvious, right? So right now, when you look at a factory floor, one of the biggest challenges that you have is you have all this equipment that is from these different OT automation companies, the Siemens, the Rockwells, the Emersons of the world, that are dispersed all throughout the factory floor, and they're talking over different protocols. So you can talk over Modbus, OPC UA, MQTT, all OT based, and they have different allocations to each of these messages and codes. It takes a engineer that understands that equipment to decode all of that, to create these databases, mm-hmm. to relate that data so that you can actually come up with a calculation that does predictive maintenance or overall equipment effectiveness. Mm-hmm. What we're going to see in the not so far future is, customers uploading their schematics to a Gen AI model and taking pictures of what's going on the factory floor. And with that information alone and the data that's coming through, dashboards for optimization are going to automatically be created. Reports are going to be generated. Optimization plans are going to be created. And we're not very far from that right now.
So one of the big things that always comes up when we talk about LLMs is hallucinations, which I think is a little bit funny, right? Oh no, the AI made up something. I make stuff up all the time. Oh no, the AI was wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Don't tell my wife that. And, that seems, we wanted AI to behave like a person. And then it did. And people were upset about that. They were like, no, not that type of behavior that's like a person. But as you start to get into dynamically building your own dashboards and decoding these protocols, that's the sort of thing that people used to sit down and do over a good bit of time and really parse through what are the nuances of it and what are the downstream ramifications. And when you automate that and it just sort of shows up and you go, wow, that's beautiful, but is it right? And how do you handle errors within an automated system like that when you can't really afford to be wrong or very wrong? How do you put safeguards in place?
Yeah, so you're asking all the right questions, and I don't know that all of the answers are completely figured out. Hallucinations are introducing a defect into this entire mix that is definitely going to make, especially the OT persona, extremely concerned. First thing is, if it's something that's safety related, you absolutely need to have a really good set of second eyes on what's going on at the end of the day. There can be no tolerance for that. But one thing that I would like to bring up is that, in general, human error is out there. So the fact of the matter is that even when the work is done manually, people we introduce defects ourselves into what's going on because we're human beings. And, when you're working on a project for a week, 2 weeks, even with peer reviews, there still are defects that are introduced into things. And I look at hallucinations almost the exact same way. The difference is that you're going to come up with an outcome way quicker, something that might take you, I would say, a couple of days to actually work out. You'll have the answer within maybe a couple of hours. And then ultimately you can spend the rest of that time looking through it to find out if there are any hallucinations or any false aspects of this optimization that's being implemented. And that's really going to save people time over and over and over again. And ultimately, hopefully, this whole issue with hallucination is solved fairly quickly.
So that's an interesting perspective. I guess that makes a lot of sense, right? Instead of spending so much time developing, you spend a lot more time testing and validating and sanity checking. Sure.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, as long as there is a closed loop feedback with the people that have the expertise and know what they're looking for, people are going to save time ultimately at the end of the day and hopefully come up with a better outcome quicker.